this is Ilina and welcome to another LDRS creative card making video. Today I'll be using the Posy Impressions dies along with the stamp set with the same name, Poppy Posy, for the sentiment. So the impression die is consists of two parts. It's the shadow and then there's the detailed die. So I have pre-cut everything. I have the shadow die cut twice from vellum. And then I have cut the flower from gold cardstock, orange, green, and white. Also, I have a background that's dark blue or navy. And I will stamp the sentiment using Watermark ink or embossing ink and emboss in gold. I'll be using the gold die cut for the outline of the poppies. So I wanted this sentiment to match. I like adding creating with dark backgrounds because makes all the colors that you put on top pop out and make them more vibrant. So that's why I decided to go with a dark background here. You could have used also black or any dark color would work. I just felt like the navy pairs up perfectly with the orange and the green. So I have like a sticky mat here. It's very used. I'm using it usually when I ink blend using dark inks. So here I'm using dark wash jeans hybrid ink to add a little bit more from a little bit more contrast to make the those edges of my panel darker. So next, let's get started. So now I'm assembling the die cut. I have a white die cut. I just wanted a little bit more sturdiness. So when I die cut those, I made sure that everything stayed intact or as much as possible. So what I'm doing here, I added adhesive on the back of that white die cut and I'm adding it to a shadow from the vellum. I'm repeating the same thing with the second die cut. So those two will be identical because we're going to build our background or pattern. So here for the second one I had two pieces that fell off, so I just adhered those separately. So next we're gonna add the gold border. So I'm just adding adhesive on the outline and it doesn't need to be perfect because we'll add more pieces on like to fill out those white spots, so you don't need to worry if that adhesive goes on to other areas too. So I'm just lining up and I'm adding heavy object here as I have a paperweight on that one, and I repeated the same for the second one. So now let's go to the leaves. So I tried to keep those intact as much as possible. Here I'm using sticky mat because some fell out, so this will hold them in place, and I'm adding key lime pie ink to create a little bit more dimension. As the ink dries, it will lighten up, so it won't the contrast won't be as you can see it right now on the screen. Those inks will lighten up and blend a little bit more once they dry. Okay, so we have those done. So I'm trying to remove them from the sticky mat. Some left there. So I added adhesive only on the parts where the leaves are. So I'm just lining that green die cut and I'm pressing only the leaves down, and that helps adhere them quicker. I had some parts that were stuck there. Because there was no adhesive on the flower parts or the flower centers, I was able to easily remove those. So I repeated the same process for the second die cut. Now I'm moving to the orange die cuts and I'm adding in your face orange in the center of the flowers to create again a little bit more dimension. I'm doing the same with the second die cut here. And then we're going to repeat the same process, adding those pieces for the petals onto the die cuts that we'll use on our card. Basically, we'll paper piece them there. So I'm just adding adhesive on the flower centers, the petals, not the centers. The centers will do last. So I'm just again trying to line those up and press those petals in as much as possible and trying as many of those to get stuck down. Don't worry if they're not, you can just do them one by one once you're done. And there's that one, and I did the same thing for the second one. So now for the flower centers, I'm again using the orange, and I'm just adding browning. This is like a little brush that I had already with browning, so I just used that one, and I'm adding adhesive in the flower centers there and just popping those in uh, the centers. Okay, so we have our die cuts done, and now it's time to start assembling our card. So I already have the sentiment. I find it easier to stamp the sentiment first, so that gives me a chance to make sure that I have space for the sentiment. So I'm adding the one of the poppies on the upper left corner. Then I'll fill the lower left corner. Then I'm going to trim the excess. And now we're going to use those leftovers to fill the rest of our background. Here you can see I have a white panel. I added a scrap piece of cardstock I had like from different packaging to make that piece more sturdy. And when I had the heavy weight on top to that like the adhesive I added, I made sure like it kind of added a little bit moisture since we heat set and that really dry the cardstock, and made sure that dried or flattened out nicer. So next I added another piece on the corner. Here I'm centering this piece, trying to kind of fill around that sentiment. So you can see here I'm just trimming the leftovers, and I'm adding around like to frame that sentiment. And then we have one more, and then we'll trim the excess. I'm just using scissors since this is a little bit thicker. We have 2 layers of cardstock plus vellum. And the white cardstock I used was heavyweight, so that was pretty thick, so I just used my large scissors to trim that off, but you can also use die cut. Paper trimmer. So after I was done, I just added the panel to a top folding white note card, and my card was done. Here's a little close-up of the card. Thank you so much for joining us today. Hope you enjoyed this video, and don't forget to visit our blog for more ideas and inspiration, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel and click on the bell button to be notified whenever we have new video. Thank you so much. Bye.